In Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere, Dalinar in particular is becoming one of my favourite characters of all time, and Jesus Christ, in this book I definitely went to hell and back with him. What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. You're with Chris, and today I'll be bringing to you my spoiler-free review of Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson, Book 3 in the Stormlight Archive, which is becoming a real favourite series for me. I just absolutely love it. So this book was done as a buddy read with my friend John over at Talking Story, and we both loved it. And we're comparing notes daily, which was fantastic, and we're going to be talking about it later this month in a live stream chat over on his channel, so I hope you'll join us for that. The Alethi armies commanded by Dalinar have won a fleeting victory at a terrible cost. The enemy Parshendi summoned the violent Everstorm, and now its destruction sweeps the land. Its passing is both terrible beyond belief and has also awakened the once peaceful and subservient Parshmen to the true horror of their millennia-long enslavement by humans. Meanwhile, far from the chaos of battle, a deeper mystery is being uncovered. Shallan Davar is in the tower city of Urithiru, high in the mountains. There are wonders in the ancient stronghold of the Knights Radiant, and she intends to unearth the dark secrets lurking in its depths. While the war worsens and as Shallan continues her quest, Dalinar comes to realise that his holy mission to unite his homeland of Alethkar is far too narrow in scope. Unless all the nations of Roshar can put Dalinar's blood-soaked past aside and stand together, and unless Dalinar himself can confront that past, even the restoration of the Knights Radiant will not avert the end of civilization. For humanity faces a terrible threat and a new desolation, the Voidbringers, a foe whose numbers are as great as their thirst for vengeance. I knew going into this book that it would be a Dalinar book where we would get much needed insight into his backstory, which has been hinted at even way back as far as the Way of Kings. Now that in itself has raised so many questions that I just had to find the answers to. I was also eager to find out what secrets lurked within the tower city of Urithiru, because it's so vast and complex and hasn't even been explored properly yet, and it has some archaeological significance as well, which I'm very, very interested in. And I am was very eager for new discoveries to be made and find out what's going on within the tower, because it was the epicenter of the Knights Radiant thousands of years ago. The pacing was great for the most part. I mean, look, there was a sequence where Shallan, Adolin and Kaladin ventured into Shadesmar, which is the cognitive realm. The sequence I found was a little bit long, but then I had to keep reminding myself that I need to be patient, and my patience would be rewarded with the payoffs that Sanderson is renowned for. It's all about lining up his chess pieces for the ultimate checkmate at the climax of the book, especially in the final act, which is absolutely brilliant. And with this final act in particular, he made use of a brilliant plot device where he used multiple points of view to convey what was happening. And there is a lot happening in the final battle in Thaylen City, where several groups of characters are battling the Parshendi, and it's just really, really ingenious how he spends probably a short amount of time cycling between all the characters so that it creates all this tension, because you're wanting to see what Kaladin's doing, and then he'll flip to someone else, and then you'll want to know what someone else is doing. So it forces you to just keep turning those pages and finding out what happens, and that is the true secret of really good tension and high stakes and excitement and nail-biting page turning. It was absolutely fantastic. Okay, let's talk about Dalinar first and foremost. He absolutely shines in the book. It is a great exploration of his character. The book really digs deep into what makes him tick, and all my questions got answered. His backstory was so dark and tragic, and I was especially impressed with, it's alluded to how he obtains the thrill in battle. It's a mindset like a superpower where he sees red mist and just goes for the kill, and it's not until he comes to full consciousness later on after a battle that he sees bodies littered around everywhere, and people just stand in awe of him, and it's no stretch of the imagination of how he got his nickname, the Blackthorn, and people are just scared of him because he doesn't realise what he's doing. He's just laying waste to all these warriors, and it's like a berserker rage, really. And this particular red mist, as part of the thrill in battle, is explained very well, and why it happens to him, which was an ultimate revelation. Kaladin, although I really like him, he did have a backseat in this one and does a couple of cool battle scenes, but he doesn't have too much to do in this book, and that's okay, because it is all about Dalinar and his personal quest for redemption and all these sorts of things, and very complex themes that involve him rather than Kaladin. So I was okay with the fact that Kaladin was placed in the background a little bit. Shallan was great, especially how her powers develop. I thought that was really good. I'm not going to spoil anything there, but her character arc is advancing very well, and I'm very happy with how she's developed, and we're discovering new layers to her all the time, and she is just so interesting, and I really enjoyed her character arc in this one. Renarin, Dalinar's youngest son, gets a lot more page time in this one, and there's a few red herrings thrown into the works in relation to him, with what's going on with him, that nothing is as it seems, and we get to know him a little bit more, and there's a really nice moment between him and Dalinar. It's a real dad moment, which really hit me in the feels as well, which was great. Navani, very underrated character in my opinion. She is strong, she's very intelligent, she has a very solid relationship with Dalinar, and she can hold her own in council sessions with other leaders of Roshar. She can actually kick ass with her words, and those scenes that we read about in those council gatherings are exceptional. Jasnar, another underrated character, she really kicks ass. She has a great set of powers of her own, and look, she deserves a mention because she does feature on the cover after all. That is her on the cover, using her powers to create steps coming down the wall, and I love the dynamic between her and Shallan, especially when they're reunited. It was really good to read about, and how they develop a mutual respect for each other that was lacking in previous books. So I like how their story arc together has really come full circle, and they both respect one another now and see each other as equals. Yeah, look, we learn about different environments and locations in this one. A new species called the Thunderclasts are a real big eye-opener. They're huge beasts that get summoned in the final act. There is a lot of detail surrounding Shadesmar, which is the cognitive realm. Now, to be perfectly honest, it's a very complex environment, and I found myself finding it very hard to picture this environment because it was just so out there with a lot of weird things, and how it's made up and how it connects to the physical realm. Just getting my head around that a little bit was a little bit difficult, but by no means any disrespect to Sanderson at all, because it was very imaginative, and how he can come up with this kind of environment is mind-blowing. And this time around, there's a lot of action that takes place in another city, Thaylen City, which is another aspect of world building that was really great. We get an up-close look at the Everstorm itself, which was very interesting. We hadn't had much information about it in Words of Radiance, but in this one, it was explained a lot better, and really opened my eyes there. And it explores the Parshendi in a little bit more detail, how formidable they are in combat. Yeah, look, the writing quality is top-notch, as it has been with the previous two books. He has a way with words that just spellbind you, and he has a way of gripping your attention all the way to the last page. Now, apart from the pacing, which I mentioned before, which was my fault because I am impatient, he knows how to put words together. He doesn't really waste words. He doesn't have pages and pages of copious description or exposition, and he just moves the plot along very well, and his characters do that as well, so it advances the story really well. So the writing quality is as good as ever, in my opinion. Yeah, look, there are plenty of standout moments in this one. Dalinar's backstory is fantastic. The revelations that we get here are the thing that bugged me from the first book is how he couldn't remember his wife's name. Why couldn't he remember his wife's name? What bargain did he strike up with the Night Watcher to make him forget? Every time his wife's name is mentioned in Way of Kings and Words of Radiance, he can't hear it. It's just like static. And it's very, very interesting to peel back those layers as to why that happens. And that's all I'm saying, because everything else would be a spoiler. But it is so dark, his backstory, and it was just so compelling. You had to find out what happens, and it was strategically the backstory was dished out very, very well at various intervals throughout the book, which I thought worked really, really well. And what he did in his early life, it's drenched in blood and conquest, and the whole story revolves around his journey to redemption and confronting his demons, and ultimately calling upon all his spirit for the end fight in the climax. Dalinar in the final battle absolutely shines. There's this really cool moment where he achieves this glory and confronts the big bad at the end and tells him, "You cannot have my pain." Reading those scenes caused me to tear up, because he came full circle with his potential, basically, and the way he held himself in that final fight was just absolutely amazing. The ultimate revelation about the origins of those that dwell on Roshar was absolutely incredible. It was mind-blowing. It flipped everything on its head 180 degrees and came from nowhere, and it was a real WTF moment, and I'm not going to spoil it here because it is absolutely earth-shattering. That revelation was probably one of the biggest sandilances of the whole book. And look, Shallan's powers is a standout for me as well, because she's a light weaver and she has the power to cause illusion, so she can impersonate people, and people will be none the wiser. But what's happening is her powers are growing to such an extent that I don't want to spoil anything here, but she takes on new aspects of these powers. They actually expand a little bit to increase her skill set. That's all I can say. You have to read it for yourself. Everyone who's read the book knows what I mean here, and how she becomes very conflicted about things and how people perceive her differently as well. It's all very, very interesting, and I enjoyed reading that aspect about her because it just explores her personality and her traits in a lot more detail, and really allows her character to grow throughout the book. Look, no, I don't have any negatives. Apart from the pacing, which was a slight negative, but again, that was my fault. I think the whole thing was brilliant. The characters were great. The writing was great. The mystery of Urithiru and the discoveries that still need to be made are enticing, and it makes me want to read Rhythm of War now. But, I can't really fault it. And, it held my attention for just under 2 weeks. Now, it held my attention to such an extent that I ignored books I've been meaning to get through for a little while now, and that's how good the book was. Yeah, so look, it's absolutely epic, it's compulsive, it's so well written. I especially enjoyed the buddy read with John over at Talking Story. That was a real highlight for my month of June. As I said earlier, we messaged back and forth with our reactions to certain chapters and things like that, and if someone got ahead, they would say, John would say, "Oh, wait till you get to this chapter," and I'm like, "Hurry up, I've got to get to this chapter. What happens in chapter 111? And he dropped a couple of hints to me, and I'm like, no way. That was one of the most enjoyable things about this read, not reading it alone and being able to compare notes with someone else. And as I said, John and I are going to be getting together for a chat to crack everything open and talk about everything spoiler related about the book. It is going to be awesome. And finally, a big question I asked myself, was it better than Words of Radiance? Now, it's a very difficult question to answer. It is a very close margin between the two books, but if I had to pick one, gun to my head, if I had to pick one, I'm going to have to go with Oathbringer, coming slightly out on top than Words of Radiance, because I was so invested in Dalinar's character and what was going on. The final battle itself was absolutely epic. I haven't read anything like it. Now, ask me in 6 months' time whether I still feel the same way. I'll probably have a different answer, because time is going to tell, especially towards the end of the year when I think about my top books of the year. And I was going to do a ranking of all the Cosmere books at the end of the year when I finish Wind and Truth, which is Stormlight Book 5, and then I thought it's going to be too hard. I would rather do a tier list, which the more I think about it, the more I'm going to do it, because a tier list, at least you might have some books that fall into the same category, which is going to be a little bit better and less painstaking than ranking them from 1 to 20 or whatever the case may be. So there you go, guys. That is it for my spoiler-free review of Oathbringer. I had a blast with it. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Help me get to 1,000 subscribers. That would be awesome. I am yet to organise my 500 subscriber live Q&A celebration. That'll be coming along shortly. But as always, offer up any feedback in the comments below. I'll always respond to that. But until the next video, guys, happy reading.